And hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Get in Tune. I know we started a couple minutes late. No big deal. I've done that before. But before I bring on my guest tonight, who I'm really looking forward to speaking with, because I am a fan of parody art. I've done it myself. I spent some time in the 90s doing it. But he's done it a lot better and more successful than I did back then. And I can't wait to speak to him about that. But before I come on, I want to let you guys know that this Friday and Saturday, which you can find on both Facebook and on YouTube, is going to be FIT's Diversity Comic-Con. Now, FIT is the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City, and it's powered by Get in Tune with me. I'm going to be running all the behind-the-scenes stuff here using through StreamYard, and you're not really going to see me, probably not at all, but I'm going to be behind the scenes running all the tech stuff. So I'm quite excited about that. I love doing tech stuff as well as my art. Art always first, but I love what DiversityCon is about. And by the name, you should know it's diversity. Diversity in comics. They have some great panels lined up. Networking. Go to diversitycomiccon.com or visit their Facebook page and find out about all the panels happening. It starts at 2:30 on Friday the 16th and starting at 10 a.m. on the 17th. But now let's get to tonight's guest. I have called him the Prince of Parody. I don't know if anyone else has. He could be, I don't know, the Sultan of Satire. I don't know. Let's bring on Don Chin.
Hey,
hi, Don.
Hi, Michael. Hi. I like the Prince of Parody. I might want to steal that from you.
Okay. I take that, use it. We got a couple of comments already from our mutual friend, Dell. Says, hi, guys. And Dell says he'll be there on Saturday, which I believe he's been part of DiversityCon in the past. And a regular viewer, Joe Ryan, says, hey, Mike, tuning in tonight. Joe, thank you for tuning in.
Hi, Dell.
Yes. I think we're gonna have a great and I don't know, it's Kane Paul or Paul Kane. I don't know how they're using your name. I want to thank you for joining us here on YouTube. And Mike Wilkie is a cartoonist. Howdy, how you doing? So we got a lot of people watching already, which is fantastic. I want to start off how I start off most of my interviews and find out a little bit about your past before you got into comics. If like what led you into comics? Was it a childhood thing? Did you get into comics later in life? And what were some of your favorite comics that inspire you to create?
Awesome. Good question. I just remember when I was younger, maybe grade school, my parents owned a Chinese restaurant, and I spent a lot of time down at that restaurant. And so to pass the time, I would read comics. And the thing that I think inspired me the most was a hardbound set of Peanuts books that Mattel put out. And they were like double-sided, like one, I don't know if you remember them, but there's like,
they sound familiar.
Yeah, 7 or 8 books in a little box. And so I just read those things until the pages literally were falling out. So I was a big Charles Schulz fan, and I loved his work. I remember tracing Peanuts and stuff. And then I kind of got more into funny animal comics. I like Richie Rich and, just the genre that was kind of age appropriate. But I didn't really get into superheroes until maybe junior high school. So I would say my foundation was mainly in daily strips, newspapers. I remember reading, all the strips that we probably grew up on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I feel we're kind of on the same page with that. I grew up, I always show behind me when people mention Peanuts, I got hard copies of Peanuts back there. I got Peanuts up on my shelf up there. Those are all daily strips. I collect them. I love the the newspaper strips. I mean, I like comic books too, and I love my superheroes and stuff, but I've always been a fan of the newspaper strips, I think.
Do you own any original Shoals or?
No, but I just saw a friend of mine works at the Society of Illustrators, and there's some original Schultz up right now. I guess because with everything going on and not a lot of people at the same time, so I got to figure out a time I can go down to the city before it disappears because I'm dying to see them up close. Because I don't know if you know, but I don't know which size they are, but he used to draw. I believe it was almost like 30 inches by like
Really?
20 something, like 20 something by like 30, like 29. And towards the end, he ended at, I think it was 19 by like 5.5. And I actually played around because I was doing a web comic called The Wiz. And I kept trying to find it, posted on Instagram a lot, is what sizes work out great. And it turned out that if I drew at that 5.5 by 19, like Schultz did, it was perfect to cut them individually for one picture. So I'm like, that's my template now. So
I got to meet him in the gosh, it was in the 90s. My wife and I were invited to go to his office. I live in Northern California, and he had I think his base was kind of Santa Rosa area. Mm-hmm. So we went into his office, and I was just like, my jaw dropped because I was sitting in with the great one, and they were talking business, these guys that had developed a relationship with me. So we were sitting around, and he was very quiet. And his studio at the time, I mean, this was the 90s, but you stepped into it, and it just looked like the Starship Enterprise. It was so state of the art. They had this guy that looked like Captain Crunch, which I believe they actually said he was the model for Captain Crunch. He was like the creative director for Charles Schultz, and he used all this, state of the art tablets and pads and stuff for their licensing and merchandising at the time. So it was just like being in a candy store. It was so cool. Once in a lifetime.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I've only seen his studio in documentaries, so to be in there must have been.
It was fun.
Yeah. Oh,
it was really fun.
Wow. And then you said you were into the animal comics, like the Harvey stuff, Richie Rich, Casper, Spooky.
Yeah, the whole gamut of them. Mainly Richie Rich, and I remember Charlton, like Top Cat. And my favorite pastime would be to eat like cinnamon toast and read comic books when I was, by myself at the restaurant. And yeah, so I enjoyed just kind of my childhood with reading, and it made me a better. I think in school, I was very far ahead of a lot of kids when it came to reading and comprehension, and I attribute a lot of that to comic books.
Yeah, no, that's great. I actually had a reading problem growing up, and comics helped me. I don't want to say get through it, but helped me understand things. There was a great collection called, I think it was called Classic Literature or something like that, or
Classics Illustrated.
Classic Illustrated, that's it. And I remember reading, like, when I was 10 years old, like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and Frankenstein, and then getting into like middle school or high school and actually reading those books. And it gave me a better understanding of the story and how to that was great.
I think first comics tried to bring those back. They were like staples of the 50s and 60s. And then I think in the 80s and 90s, First was trying to redraw them and make them more contemporary.
Yeah, no, they were great. I had a few of them. I know I still see a few in the comic shops here and there, but I don't think they're being produced right now.
No.
So you said when you got into your middle school, so early teens, you started getting into superheroes. What kind of stuff were you reading when you got into the superheroes?
I vaguely remember like signing up for Marvel mail-in stuff, like being a member of their monthly club and getting like a cool Jack Kirby Thor poster and whatever sticker type things they were offering. But I think I got the collecting bug when I was in junior high school, and a friend of mine had an older brother that had like some really old Batmans, like 12-cent cover price Batmans and stuff. And so I saw them, and instantly appealed to me because they just look really cool. And I was a Batman fan growing up on TV, the Adam West Batman. So I think just kind of collecting an old Batman just kind of ignite the bug for me to collect comics. And then before I knew it, I had a comic book store when I was in college, and I had thousands of books, and I still have too many comics in my garage.
I can imagine. And so you've been around comics, good part of your life, maybe the majority of it, right? Would you say?
Yeah, I guess. I felt it was my ambition to either make movies or do comics, but I took the off beaten path and became a realtor. But I'm still, my heart is still in comics. Real estate pays the bills, and so that allows me to have fun. And comics did pay the bills for quite a while, as most of us that have been in industry know that the heyday was in the '90s when you could basically sell anything and sell 20,000 copies of it.
Yeah.
But it kind of took a dive, as everybody knows. We had a kind of a glut in the '90s, and shops closed and publishers closed and distributors went out of business. So my wife and I kind of saw the writing on the wall, and she said, I think you'd be good selling real estate. So I went and I answered a want ad from Coldwell Banker, and they said, well, we'll teach you the ropes, and if you like us, you can come work for us. And so I've been a realtor for about 22 years.
Wow.
And so the last project I did in comics was publishing a parody of the NBC superhero show called Heroes with my friend Bill Mouse, and that was in 2007, I think. So I've been out of it for like 13 years, but now next year is when we're going to have at least a couple projects come out.
Cool. And you're bringing back Parody Press, correct? Parody Press was originally.
Yeah, it was kind of on the down low for a while. And Bill Mouse, who was still cartooning and still doing self-publishing, he was my co-founder along with my wife on Parody Press, because we got our start meeting each other with Eclipse Comics, and then which it was X-Farce, which was our first Eclipse comic book, like in the early '90s. And then Eclipse went out of business. So Bill and I said, well, I think we could do this on our own. Mm-hmm. So we created Parody Press like in 1992, and we came up with the Unfunny X-Cons, which was the first Parody Press book. And so then after that, we had a run of about 6 or 7 years where we were publishing 3 or 4 parodies a month. And then I got out of it. And then Bill said, can I go, basically, can I take, will you give me the blessing to have the license for Parody Press? And I said, that's fine, Bill. So I'm basically, he's being a kind guy and letting me come back in on Parody Press as a co-publisher, but he actually owns the imprint.
Okay. All right. Because you sent me some more. We're going to look at some art in a little bit. We got a couple of other questions. Kane Paul says he could do voiceovers for Steve-O. Mike Wilkes says
Steve-O from MTV.
I believe that's who he's talking.
Really? I've never had someone say I sound like Steve-O. I don't know if that's a compliment or not.
Honestly, I'd have to hear his voice again. I don't remember it.
Is he one of those guys that does like the like tortures himself with Johnny?
Knoxville. Yeah.
like with a hammer or something.
Mike Wilkes says Schultz drew a 27.5 by 5.5. I guess that was before he shrunk it down to the 19. Because I got that image. I got that number from the Schultz Museum. This website. And Harold says, hey, Don and Michael. He also says, great that you're getting back into publishing.
Yes. Harold's a great friend of mine. He's someone that I met when we moved. Our Parody Press got started in California, Northern California. Mm-hmm. And then Bill lived over on the East Coast in the Norfolk, Virginia area. And so we decided, my wife and I, that we were going to take our base of operations to the East Coast. So we moved out there, and I met Harold, and Harold's an excellent cartoonist on his own. He's got a new Instagram strip called Sweetest Beast, which you can look up. And he's
writing that down.
Harold's he worked for Archie. I think he was pretty high up, like as far as maybe, weren't you like vice president or something, Harold, for a while? But then he went off and did writing for Mystery Science Theater 3000, the relaunch with Netflix. So
Yeah.
Harold's in our audience, and he did some comic book projects with me called Apathy Cat. We published 4 issues of that.
Cool, cool.
Should have him on someday.
I have to look it up. I think I follow the strip on Instagram you were talking about.
Oh, good.
I gotta look. It's called Sweetest Beast.
Yeah, I think that's right, Harold. You can correct us if we're wrong.
Put a link to it in the comments, please, Harold. I'd love, if I don't follow it, I'd love to check it out.
So, wow, he was up there with Archie.
Publishing operations of Archie. So we're definitely gonna. I actually spent a little bit working for Archie as a production artist, so we may know a few people in common there, Harold.
Nice.
So let's kind of start at the beginning of your comic career, because we didn't. I just don't want to waste time continuing talking about the past inspiration. We didn't really get into the inspirations outside of Schultz, which is fine because I'm sure they'll come along. But but I want to get into your work. I want to sit and really talk about your stuff. And so you and Bill, I guess, were working together on some ideas, and you got published by Eclipse, correct?
Yeah.
Is that your first project together?
That is correct. It was actually his first published work was with Eclipse. And then I had a relationship with Eclipse in the 80s because they were the ones that published the Adolescent Radioactive Black Belt Hamsters, which is kind of what most people know me for.
Yes, and we were going to get to that as well. So the Hamsters came out, I guess, before you and Bill worked together, you're saying?
Right. Hamsters came in 86, and then we did X-Farce, I think, in 92, 91 or 92.
And with the Hamsters, you write it. You're not the artist on it.
That's correct. I've had many different artists. The original one was Parsonovich, which was a high school cartooning buddy of mine here in Eureka, California. And we're like polar opposites. He's like a hippie, and I'm like this kind of conservative guy. But somehow we merged and did this really offbeat, kind of undergroundy version of the Turtles, which
I was gonna say, well, first of all, obviously everyone I assume knows the inspiration came from the Turtles, but I found some images of the original online, and actually in a YouTube video somebody was talking about it, and I was watching some of the stuff, and I gotta say it's a really out there comic that I'm a little upset I don't have a copy of the original, even not original print, like a 12th edition copy. I don't care. It's just,
I'll send you some.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Maybe we can talk again if you want to talk.
I'm always happy to. It was just such a fun, comic, and it read like just an out there cartoon, almost kind of Warner Brother-ish in a way, but a little more grown up. It's not a kid friendly comic. At the time.
It's got a lot of non-PC humor in it. I don't think you can get away with what I did back then, but it's very irreverent. I mean, I grew up and I loved like Airplane movie, and the underground comics that I read were like the Freak Brothers and Robert Crumb. So I have kind of this weird just the synergy of different influences, but I always felt like humor was my strength. And so when we came together, and me and Parsonovich, he was huge into Mobius, if you remember Mobius's work from heavy metal. So even when he was in high school, he was kind of imitating his line work, and you can see that in a lot of the earlier books that we did. He tried to really cram as much cross-hatching and stippling and detail that he could in each panel.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It actually does remind me a bit, though, and I'm sure it was done on purpose, of like the original Ninja Turtle books. Like the way, you know, that the shading was, everything. I mean, it was, you know, it's definitely. Oh, hold on one second. I'm sorry, my second monitor kind of was crapping out for a second there. Anyway, it was the art, like I was saying, definitely the art that I've seen that you've shared with me, and this is where it comes from. Every time you parody something, you find an artist that either can draw within a similar style to look like the artist, or it's just done in a comedic version of it. Um, like for example, let me just. Do you mind if I pull up
Oh,
a
yeah.
piece of art? Let me like.
They're getting tired of our faces, Michael. I can.
Okay, whoops, undo that. Just give me 1 second. I'm gonna pull up. This is the old one, I think. Yeah, I believe this is the old uh, X Farce
Yeah,
picture. So obviously, the artist was parodying Liefeld, and you know, it's done more in a cartoony way than the way he drew.
yeah. We kind of was loosely Liefeldy. Um, Funny thing about this one, I don't think a lot of people knew, but Eclipse was advertising this with the Todd McFarlane cover, and at the last minute, I guess he decided that he wasn't going to do it. But it sold well. I think we sold like 60 to 70,000 copies of that book, so it might have actually outsold the first issue of the Hamsters. But the Hamsters was kind of, no one really predicted that it would do as well, and I think we sold like 53,000 first printing of the Hamsters, and then about 20, somewhere in the mid 20s of the Hamsters second printing.
Let me make it bigger so we can see. Oh, it's just moving. Hold on. But yeah, no, it's, I just want to make it bigger on the screen so people can see. So these are some of your old hamster books. You did some in 3D.
Yeah, we did four in 3D.
And the ones down here by Dynamite. When did Dynamite take over the book?
They approached me in like the early 2000s, and then they came out with like a 4-issue miniseries in color in 2007, 2008. And they actually they now own the intellectual property for the hand. So I think we're still planning on doing some new projects, but at the moment they're kind of on, kind of just in a holding pattern. We were going to do a Cyber Frog team up, but that got canceled due to some political problems. And so I wrote this whole 40-page book, and it was being drawn, and then it got the axe. But who knows? Maybe they'll reconcile and it'll come back. I would like that.
And guys, just watching, I'm sorry, I meant to post this in the beginning, but if you look at the bottom of your screen, this is a social media where you can follow Don. He's on Instagram and on Twitter. Those are his handles there. Please make sure you follow him there. Let me come back over here. And I wanted to show one other, and I just love the artwork on the illustration of this one here. The Shingle Man. The parody on the McFarlane cover of Spider-Man. I'm gonna be asking you in a little bit about certain characters here. This is one I'm gonna ask, but I just love, like I said, how you get these looks from the artist to really pull kind of from the original, who the art is, if you want to say making fun of, who it's parodying. But before we get into talking about that, I want to talk to you about what I know you said you felt humor was your strength, but what was it about parody? I mean, you could have done a comic strips, in the form of Peanuts style, or you could have done humor stuff like Richie Rich and things like that. Why did you go parody?
I think I grew up reading a lot of Mad and Cracked. So that was kind of my inspiration was I liked Mad and Cracked. In fact, Cracked was the first thing I ever got published in, which was like in '84, before the hamsters. I think I might have sent you an
Yeah,
image.
I'll share it right now. You got a little piece here, and it talks about, not talks about, but it shows where, if you can see my cursor, I know, guys, it might be small for you on there, but your name is right under here as one of the writers. And does it say which one you did here?
On this particular issue, I got paid just to do the Po Buddies Nerfict, which was the inside poster. If you took the cover off the book, you could put that on there. And so in subsequent issues, I did something that was illustrated, and I always wanted to do the movie parodies, but they kind of had that locked in with the team. And John Severin at the time, I just thought he was the best. I always dreamed about like doing a movie parody with him.
Mm-hmm.
But did I send you the cover, the one that has War Games on the front?
No, that's the only cracked piece I have.
Okay, that's all right.
Okay.
Yeah, I did about 4 issues worth of work with Cracked, and then I was just kind of feeling my way out in life and not really knowing what my career was going to be. But that was hard to break in the door of those magazines back then. You'd have to mail in and just kind of wait and see if they liked your stuff. And so over a process of back and forth with one of the editors, he finally let me get my foot in the door. So that was my first paid comic book work.
That's great. I was a big Cracked fan growing up, but it was a hard magazine for me to find in the area I lived in. It was sporadically, like in the pharmacies or the delis or wherever had magazines were sold, even bookstores. It was just hard. Mad was always much easier to find.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm a big Sergio Aragonés fan, so I was okay with that. But I did really enjoy Cracked.
Oh, cool.
I actually have a couple. I don't know where it is right now, but I have a couple of Cracked I should have pulled out just to check to see if you were in them. They're somewhere in front of my Cintiq here in my piles of magazines. But yeah, no. So you started at Cracked, your first year, which is great. Congratulations on getting into something that was that kind of fun. And then from there, I guess you went into the hamsters, or
yeah. Prior to Cracked, actually, my friends and I, like Parsonovich and some of the local guys around here, we actually had a little fanzine called Overload that I started in high school, and then by the time it got to its 4th issue, we had a distributor through Bud Plant, who was one of the distributors at the time. So that was actually, I wasn't really getting paid for that. It was more like Dad was being kind and publishing my artwork because I was getting rejected by everybody else. So we did about 4 issues of Overload. It was a black and white. We called it a fantasy humor magazine. So it was almost like a mold between Cracked, Mad, and Heavy Metal, because we all liked heavy metal magazines. So it was very interesting. So Overload came first, and then I went into Cracked just for a little bit. And then I was hitting the convention scene here in California trying to promote Overload. And that's where I met a lot of people that are in the industry, because you would basically, my hometown is about 6 hours driving from San Francisco. So back in the day, Creation Con was like the one that everybody would go to, and it would have the biggest stars. And so we would buy a booth at Creation Con and set up to just get Overload out there. And so that's how I kind of met the people that are the publishers at Eclipse, because they're Northern California.
Okay.
So I kind of developed a relationship with them just through the convention scene. And then when the Turtles hit, my friend Parsonovich and I said, well, maybe we should try a spoof. So he drew this book, and we sent copies to the Eclipse folks, and they said, yeah, let's give this a shot. And they did. And, the rest is kind of history.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Now, I want to ask you a question. This kind of goes to all your parody work. And I understand there's parody law that allows you to get away with stuff. But, some of your stuff could be very close to original, to the original concepts. How do you get away with the parody, and have you ever had any trouble with a company because of the parody?
Only one kind of a polite cease and desist, and that was from Marvel when we did the Pummeler.
Okay.
Pummeler was a spoof of the Punisher, and we did one issue. It sold pretty well, like probably 30,000 copies, black and white with a really cool Sam Keith cover on it. And then we did Pummeler $2,099, which was a spoof of their Punisher in 2099.
Yeah.
And then I think we were gonna do one more, and we solicited it in Diamond. It might have been Pummeler versus Sergeant USA, and so they found us out and they said, can you please stop doing that or we'll sue you. So we stopped. But we done Superman, Batman, Ren and Stimpy, Barney. We've covered Star Trek, Star Wars, and we've never had anybody call say bad. I think even Kevin Eastman said he liked the hamsters, so that was nice. I saw it in an interview. He said he thought they were pretty cool.
They are a fantastic group, and we're gonna get to talking about like all your characters and stories that you've written a little more in detail in a minute. But I got a question from Joe Ryan. It says, "Hello, I'm a 2018 graduate from the Kubert School and been trying to break into the industry. I'm in the process of developing my own comic, but I'd love to get my foot in the door and break in with a comic publisher of your experience. And what is the best advice you can give to a new artist trying to break in? Any feedback would be most appreciated. Thanks."
Well, Joe, what I've seen lately, I kind of think the mainstream comic book business is shrinking. So I think the jobs that you probably dream about getting with Marvel and DC, most of us know DC has laid off a lot of people, and their books are just kind of sputtering along. And so I see independence kind of being the wave, and that's why I felt it would be a good time to get back in, because crowdfunding seems to be a real popular way of getting your product out there. And I'm trying this for myself the first time ever in 2021. So I'm kind of going into uncharted territory for myself, because the old way was you would do your comic book and you would solicit it through your distributor, mainly Diamond Comics, and then they would send their catalog out to all these various local comic book stores, and then they would order based on what they felt they could sell. And so, after you wait a few months, you get your orders back, and then you print, and then they handle all the shipping. But the negative thing is, that's a great service, but they take like 50% of the cover price for their service. So, you sell a comic book for $3, you're only going to make like $1.50 after you've, figured out all your expenses. So, to me, Joe, I would say if you've got an idea, maybe think about what crowdfunding might do, because you might be able to get enough people that just to help you publish it and actually make some money. And the print runs now, because there's print on demand and digital printing, you can get really low print runs. I mean, I've seen people do print runs of less than 100 books. The only thing is you're going to have to charge a lot more than $3 to make it worth your while. So what I'm seeing lately through like Indiegogo and Kickstarter, most of these books that they're publishing are like $25 for what you normally used to pay like $3 or $4 for. But the print run is so low, I think they're going to hold their value. And so, Joe, I might suggest that. Or you can send your samples to people that are, in the industry, and just see what kind of feedback they give you. But if you're at Joe Kubert School and you've graduated, I'm sure you're very good. If you want to send me some work, I could maybe say, you might be a good fit with this person I know, or that person, depending on if you're, more of a superhero guy or a fantasy guy or humor. I think I know enough people where I could just kind of say, you might want to try sending it to this guy, and then you can go from there.
I think that's some really good advice. Thank you for answering the question. I do have something based on what you said, though. I do have a question for you. It's kind of not related to what, your work and what we're talking about, but you mentioned you see the mainstream kind of shrinking. And, and you mentioned, I think you mentioned digital a little bit. Do you see comics going more digital based and in people reading them, through tablets and stuff, or are you still thinking print is going to be here? I mean, who are when we make comics for anyone, any company makes comics, we got to go where the audience is. Do you think that the print of comics, like comic strips and newspapers, kind of died? Do you think it's going to be moving more to an online market now?
Hmm. That's a good question, Michael. When I was thinking digital, I was actually thinking more of the digital printing process.
Oh,
That's
okay.
not versus the traditional one. But that's a good question, because I think kids these days are more used to looking things at their phones or on an iPad or
Mhm.
on the computer. So I do think there's definitely a market, and I think Dynamite has the hamsters on Comixology. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing I think a lot of publishers are using. And so you just pay for a digital download or a subscription, and you can read as much as you want. Um, that's been kind of the debate with me when we're doing X Farce Reloaded, which is our first Parody Press book. Um, do I offer it as a PDF for a lower price, or do I just stick with print? And I think at this point in time, I don't think I'm going to offer a cheaper PDF that I can just email. Some people have said, you know, it's easy for you as the publisher to make money on that because you're not printing, you're just emailing them a PDF. But
Yeah.
to me, I think the collectability, it'll help the collectability of the book itself if it's uh, a printed copy, because
Yeah.
the PDF you can share, and then it gets out on the internet, and then everybody can read it. But people can do that with print too. I've seen people cut up comics like the hamsters, and they'll digitize it and they'll put it on a site for free, and you can read it.
Yeah, no, that I'm not. Yeah, I mean, I see that. I've seen that with a lot of comics too. Not that I go on those sites because um, I've strongly believed if I'm into something and it's made by someone, especially an indie artist, I want to pay for it. I want to support the indie. And I know I've taught at colleges and I've had students download stuff from torrent sites, and I don't want to use the word yell at them because this is a college level, but I'm like, aren't you trying to sell your own book? Like put an animation together or something? You want to sell that, right? Why would you steal someone else's work for free? So I think that's I understand that's how it is. I'm putting something together right now. I actually showed you the cover of the book, and I'm going to be trying to print through Amazon, and through Amazon, at least, and this is what I gather, when you download it, um, and when you buy through the actual Amazon, it's like a print on demand. They're going to send it out. But if you use the Kindle publishing, like their Kindle service, um, it's in the Kindle format that it can only be downloaded to a Kindle device. So it can't be
It
spread
can't
out.
be.
To my knowledge, it can't be. It can't be done that way. But um, it's interesting because I'm interested in that too, which that's one of the reasons I asked the questions. But I thought the way you mentioned digital, it was meant not for printing, but for the books. Joe Ryan says, solid advice. Thank you for taking the time to answer my question regarding the industry. What's the best way to get in touch with you and send you a few samples of work?
Joe, my Twitter, if you have Twitter, is scrolling across, and it's at Real Don Chin. And if you want to email me, I'll give you my email, which is Don, Don, Laura, which is my wife's name, Laura, at gmail.com.
Right. Um, So let's move on a little bit. I want to really get into your characters in a bit, but before we get into the stories and really focus, because you're bringing back Parody Press, you're starting with X Farce Reloaded, which I have a cover of, and we'll show that. But I have to talk about this just because I am one of the biggest geeks of this. For a while, you were with Entity Press.
Entity Comics, yes.
Yes, and Entity Comics, sorry. And you worked with that with Bill.
Yeah, Entity Comics was actually our superhero sci-fi imprint, because we wanted to get into other things besides parody. So Entity was kind of our sister company, and it did really well. I mean, we had the license for Zen, Intergalactic Ninja, and then Stargate was like one of the bigger the only movie license that we had. And so yeah, I loved that movie when I saw it in the theater with Kurt Russell and James Spader, and then for some wild reason it fell into our lap. I think we were at San Diego Con, and the guy that had the marketing and licensing, he was a representative for MGM. He said, "Yeah, we're looking for a publisher for Stargate. Would you be interested?" And we said, "Wow, that would kind of put us on the map."
Because I was going to ask, how did that come about? I mean, I remember, I believe the movie was 1994. I remember sitting in the theater, and the second you go through the Stargate, I was hooked. And I'm not going to lie to you, I've watched SG-1 I don't know how many times, Atlantis I don't know how many times, Universe countless times, but the movie I've literally seen over 30 times.
Wow. You got me beat. You got me beat. Yeah. Maybe for me, maybe 7 or 8. Yeah. But I'm about due to watch it again. We have a really nice new home theater set up, and I think it would do it justice.
That's nice. I'm looking for.
I got to meet Dean Devlin at a con right after the first issue got published, really? And I was stoked. I actually wrote the first issue of the movie adaptation. And so I got to wait in line, and I gave Dean a copy, and he autographed one for me. I still have that, but that was really cool because he was the co-creator of Stargate.
That is awesome. That is, and that ran for how many issues did you do with Stargate?
Stargate, we did, I'd say just a handful, maybe like about a dozen. We did a couple miniseries. We did some one-shots. If I can find the only kind of paperback one that we did, I will send you a copy, because there's not very many of them. I think we called it Stargate: The New Adventures, and we published that. I think I saw some in my garage, so I will look there. And anything else? Do you have any Stargate comics, or are you mainly just?
You know what? I had some of the SG-1 comics. I don't know if I still have my. I had, before I got married, I had over 30 boxes of comics, and the majority of them were long boxes. And I slowly started decreasing, mostly because where I live right now, my studio would take up all 30 boxes. and so there was this organization by a friend of mine he used to do, called Superheroes for Hospice. It was out in New Jersey, and he worked for a hospice center, and every couple of months he'd put together this charity event and raise money for the hospice center. And it was called Superheroes for Hospice. And what we'd do is I would go as an artist, and if I made money, I spent it there. I didn't take anything. And even if I didn't make money, I spent money there. And he would do an awesome deal. And it was I think $1 a comic for the first 10 or 20. Then it was 50 cents for the next 10 or 20, and then a quarter for everything after. So people were there doing collections, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to start donating comics to him. Because if they're going to get the money and I need to get rid of them, and I would bring boxes every time and just say, here you go. And I'm not going to lie, I'd bring the boxes, and then I probably bought some of my books back. Because I would go, and I do a lot of work with kids, so I try to always save the kid-friendly ones and hand them out to kids. Like the superpowers things up behind me, those are Garcia Lopez art. Man. But those are prints I bought for $1 a piece. at the hospice show. So
Cool.
yeah, so it was great.
I loved his work, his DC work. He was one
Oh,
of my
loved it.
favorite. I had a pretty good run of DC Comics Presents, and
Mhm.
Superman was he and George Perez I really liked growing up.
Yeah, I'm two of those are two of my favorites. I was talking with a friend the other day, and I was saying I'm a big Jerry Ordway fan. I love how he drew the characters, and especially when he did the Power of Shazam back in the '90s. That was a fantastic book. But yeah, for me, I'm the center guy up there, Dr. Fate. There's actually a Flash to balance it out on the other side. But yeah, I'm a Dr. Fate guy. I love all
You
that.
like Keith Giffen's Dr. Fate?
I've actually loved almost every interpretation. The only one I didn't like was the one in the '90s where it was when he became Fate and he had the Ankh in the eye and he destroyed the helmet of Naboo was destroyed and he destroyed the cloak and wrapped it around his arm and
I missed that one. I
you're
guess I
lucky.
didn't miss anything.
You're very very lucky. It was the '90s and and I hate to say it this way, but I've always some people have referred to it as the dark ages of comics, with the way the mainstream was being run, and I'm one of them, and I don't know if others are like him, but there's a lot of people who say it was blame it on the death of Superman. Now, it was a great story, but everybody had to have something done to them who was a big character. Batman gets his back broken, Wolverine gets his adamantium removed, all this stuff, and it was just all gimmicks at the times. And I just feel comics started getting ruined, but everything had to be dark because Spawn got popular and all this, so everyone needed darkness to them. And I think like Superman used to be a character who smiled. After the death of Superman, he came back like hardly smiling, and it was just like I don't want to see Superman dark. I don't, all these characters. I kind of started disappearing outside of Green Lantern. I really stopped collecting a lot of comics in the '90s. The Green Lantern is always one of my top guys.
Yeah, I didn't really care for the dark turn either.
Yeah, it wasn't, but like I said, I grew up on reading Disney comics and Harvey comics, and I just like those animals and the fun. I do like superheroes, but I liked them in the '80s. They were fantastic in the in the '80s.
Yep. I agree. I liked what was the other one that I collected a lot of? Not Justice League, but I can't remember. But Legion
of Superheroes.
Yeah, I like that.
I had a bunch of them too.
Kind of more lighthearted and fun.
Yeah, exactly. I was the same way. Now because we're at 50 minutes here almost, and I know you can't be on forever with me tonight. Although I think we could go
like an hour and a half. I'm fine.
But
I got my water here, and
I got mine too. So let me take a sip.
My wife's already eaten, so I'm off the hook. So
Yeah. Well, you do have a time difference, so you're in
it's only 6:30 right here. So
aren't you lucky?
I'm still bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Surprisingly, I am too.
I see you've been eating better, so I'm on your Facebook page.
Yes, well,
getting out those carbs.
Thank you. Yeah, haven't had one since last. It's been I think a full week now since I've touched a carb, anything processed.
Good job, man.
Thank you.
Have you noticed a difference in your, like, the way you feel, or?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've shared this on the screen before, and I don't know if I told you really, but I have a lot of medical issues. I've had 2 kidney transplants, and my last transplant, I had a really rough recovery. That left me as a type 2 diabetic and left arthritis in my knees and hips. So at the end of the day, and back in April, I had COVID, and it knocked me out. And since I got better, and actually while I had it, because I didn't eat for like 3 weeks when I had COVID, I dropped 20 pounds in like 2 weeks or so. And then I gained more back because that's just how it works. But what happened was I've had issues with blood sugar, and I've heard diabetics who have had COVID have issues with their blood sugar who are type 2. And I don't know about type 1. I only really talk with type 2 people. And what happened was I just was having trouble controlling. I was trying different things with diet. I usually was able to control it with diet and just a couple of different meds like pills. But about, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago, I got put on insulin at night, 1 shot at night after dinner. And the what's it called? They were playing with different amounts of insulin on me. I finally reached a number that was good, but I had to cut out the carbs. I think the carbs really helped. I was only going to do it for lunch, and then I was like, no, I'm only going to do it for breakfast carbs. And then it is what it is. And I love to cook, so I don't mind, but I'm a big sandwich guy. That's what I miss. I love sandwiches, and I got to figure out a way to take the sandwich place, But I don't mind. I used to be a vegetarian, so I can handle eating. I'm not a big pasta fan. So, it's a lot of vegetarians fill up with pasta and things. And that was never for me. For me, it was, I want a sandwich or I want a cookie, so I just.
So are you like keto or paleo or?
No. Here's the thing. I mean, I don't want to turn this into my medical drama here.
Sorry, we're going off.
No. It's okay. I don't mind talking. Because I have the kidney disease, I can't eat high amounts of protein. My amount of protein is 3 ounces of protein per meal. Okay. And sometimes I don't even go, like that would be 9 per meal. But I started doing the intermittent fasting, which has helped me out a lot. I have stopped. I don't eat a lot extra protein except maybe at lunch because I didn't get it in the morning. So I'll eat maybe like 4 ounces in the daytime, and then at dinner I keep it small. But there's a lot of different like things that are good for diabetics that I can't do. Certain vegetables I'm off of. I really can't touch fruits for the diabetes, but certain vegetables I can't have, whether they're high in potassium or just not good for the kidney or whatever. Like in fruit, bananas, high in potassium, not good for the kidney. Coffee, only 1 cup, caffeine, not good for the kidney. So it's a big, pick and choose what I can do. And that's the hard part of my diet. I can't just have one thing. Just try to balance it at the best I can.
Good for you, man.
Thank you.
That's good. Thank you.
But I think I took up too much of the time turning this into the Michael Gracia medical show. So let's start talking about some of your characters and things you've created. And I'm gonna bring it up and just looking to see if there's any other notes that I had on you I want to bring up. But let's share the screen and let's start bringing up. Now, do you mind me pulling up anything you've sent me, or is there?
Yeah. Let's make it.
Okay. Let's talk about. We're just gonna go down the line then, I guess.
All right.
Okay. I don't know what this is. I don't know if this. Actually, no. I know what that is. That I believe is the ex-con story you sent me. I don't want to. That's the whole thing. Why share that if you're updating that?
Share a page, but
okay, I'll share a page.
You want to.
So.
Oh, that's actually this story was from the original ex-cons that we did in '92. We took basically a 32-page comic book and we split it into 3 different X-Men parodies. So the first one was this one, which was me writing a Simon and Kirby era parody. So this is X-Cons the beginning. And then the second chapter was more of the like when X-Men 94 came along and they had all the new characters like Wolverine and Colossus and stuff. So another chapter was that era of the X-Men. And then the last chapter was more like the 90s current era X-Men that we were seeing that Marvel was publishing. So in X-Farce Reloaded, it's 48 pages and it'll all be digital color, which Delphin is doing most of the coloring on. So, so this is part of the X Farce Reloaded. It'll have, I think this is like a 10-page story, and it'll be totally in color. And then X Farce, which was a separate book that Eclipse did, that will be totally reprinted in color, which it has never been before. And then the rest of the book will be anthology stories of miscellaneous, 2 to 5 page X-Men spoofs. So it's kind of a mix of old and new, but it'll be full color throughout. So most of the parody books we did back in the day, other than one Batman spoof, was all black and white. So we're going to see how this does, because we have a lot of parody press material that a lot of people, in this generation hasn't seen. And I think they would love to see it in, in digital color.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I just noticed on the Angel, you have a little smiley face on his belt. I didn't notice that the first time.
Yeah, we called him the Anglo.
Yeah, the Anglo. I love it. And who's the artist on here? Mark Lewis. He did a great job capturing a Kirby-esque style here.
Yeah, I like Mark. We met at a con, and he sent me some samples, and I thought, this guy, he can really do a good job of Kirby. And he's a professional animator now, and actually worked on the X-Men animated series. And there's a book that's coming out that has a lot of his artwork in it. But Mark did the X-Cons. Did I send you the X-Cons cover? The one that's all red and kind of a...
I don't know. I can look. I got some X-Con stuff down here. Let's see.
I did. This is going to be... Yeah, there we go. Okay. So the work that you saw in black and white, that was Mark Lewis circa, 1990s. This is Mark Lewis circa 2020. And we commissioned him to do this variant cover, which is going to be on X Farce Reloaded as a variant. So it's got the whole throwback to an early Kirby issue. And so we just totally went for it. And it's the Brotherhood of Vile Misfits. And Magneto is our spoof name of Magneto. And he's basically the Planner's Peanuts guy, but he's diabolical. So yeah, Mark's doing this. He colored it, did all the graphics. He just does a really good homage. And if you go look him up online at marklewisdraws.com, I think you can kind of see more of his work where he's done kind of these retro parodies. And so we just thought he would be perfect to bring back as a cover artist on one of our variant covers.
No, it's very nice. I love it. Actually, I just want to go back to the other page real quick, because I wanted to ask you on the inker, Kurt Hathaway. You sent me some stuff for him today, correct? Was that the links to the website?
Yeah, Kurt's been a long time friend, and he was basically our house letterer for all the parody press books. So he's got a company where Cartoon Balloons, where he'll do lettering for you. He's worked for Marvel and DC, and he does typography, logos, and he's super fast, super professional. So I sent you today one of the stories that I think I sent you the earlier black and white artwork with no lettering just a few days ago. And then lo and behold, earlier this afternoon, he sends me the finished pages, even though they haven't been colored yet. You can kind of read the story. And that
was for X Farce?
X auditions, maybe?
I don't know if I have that. I'll have to...
I sent it. I think I forwarded you an email, and it was a PDF file. So I don't know if you can...
Do I have any other PDFs in here?
It probably would have been one of your more recently downloaded files.
Was it in... was it done in email or through Facebook? Do you remember?
I sent it to you in an email. It was a PDF, just like this afternoon. But if you can't find it, that's okay. But
1 second.
Yeah,
that's what we're all here about. All great technology, right? Don't worry, I won't read any new email. Oh, right here. You know what? It's in the same email. I did not look down. I just looked at the links. So give
Oh,
me
I
one
see.
second. I'll download it.
Yeah, it's not a very big file.
Okay. Yep. It just downloaded. I'll drag it in here. So, and this is the page.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I think you sent me these. Or you sent me 2 pages of this before it had the lettering
Right.
on here. That's right.
So this is yet to be colored. Most of your viewers probably know, people do pencils and then they ink it, and then it goes to a letterer, and then it goes to a colorist. So that's kind of where we're at right here with this one, is that it's just been lettered, and now it'll go to Delphin to color
Can
later.
I share all 3 pages or?
Yeah, I don't mind. I mean, this is written by Mike Barron, who some of your viewers may know. He was a longtime comic book writer. He did Nexus and Badger. He wrote Flash. He's doing a lot of indie projects right now. He's bringing Nexus back.
Cool.
Florida Man. So he's done some parodies for us back in the 90s, and we kind of rekindled our relationship online. And he that didn't sound right. With Mike Barron. He's married, I'm married. So anyway, yeah, Mike, I said, Mike, will you do a X-Farce X-Cons parody for our book? And he said, yeah, I'll do it. And so he thought, oh, what a funny concept would be if you had to have auditions for the people to become the newest X-Farce or X-Con.
I was just thinking, it reminds me of like old Legion story, when they would do that there's
the tryouts
story, the tryouts, yeah. But it reminds me of that a little bit just from looking at the at the imagery.
Yeah, and Ted Hellard is the artist on this, and he's actually a local guy that grew up here, and he went off to school, like I think some art institute in Georgia, and he just really wanted to be a professional cartoonist. I don't know how many other books he's done, but I liked him a lot. I thought he would be a good fit for this story, and so this is his contribution to the book.
That's fantastic. Let's move on to another character. This is just the logo, but we got Beard Zerker, who is this guy here.
Yes, this is kind of our under the radar project. After I saw Keanu Reeves do his Kickstarter campaign for Berserker, I thought, gosh, what can I do to parody him, because he's so ripe. So so Bill and I are actually working on a full color book called Beard Zerker, and I don't know, it may even come out before X-Farce. I'm not exactly sure, because he's just clearing off his table of his latest commitments, but then he's going to dive right into Beard Zerker, like a full 32-page color book. And so Beard Zerker is, if you can imagine Ted from Bill and Ted in a cryo sleep for like 30 to 40 years, and then waking up and seeing the world the way that it is, and having to solve the world's problems. And so his beard will get bigger and bigger throughout the book, because he's been empowered by the rock gods. And so if you look at the logo, the Beard Zerker logo, the 2 Z's are like the ZZ Top logo. So it's kind of a mishmash of a heavy metal rock and roll hero with there's going to be a lot of action and parody violence. It's almost like he goes Boris the Bear on pop culture in this book. And we have some like famous rock people that I'm not going to mention in this interview yet that make appearances. And yeah, so he's Beard Zerker. He's got a guitar that he calls his he calls it the Shredder, and it kind of serves as an axe. And yeah, he's just going to go out and wipe out all the perils that we are facing in 2021 and 2020.
That's fantastic. I do love. I know I haven't seen the full picture of the guitar, but I just love the way he drew the blades on the axe.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And he talks like Keanu from the Bill and Ted movies. So he's like 40 years old, but he's been in sleep, deep sleep for many years. So he wakes up basically with a 17-year-old mentality. And so he's got his cat, which I think I sent you a picture of.
Yep, right there.
The cat's name is Cat Stevens.
Which I find hysterical, and I just love it. Um, I'm just looking at so he's got some kind of chain around his neck.
Yeah, he's kind of a hip hop cat because there was a movie called Keanu with that Key and Peele did, and the cat kind of looks like this cat. So the joke is that Ted's friend, well, I call them Will and Ed because I don't want to get sued.
Yeah, yeah.
But Will leaves Ed this cat because he realizes when he wakes up he might need a companion because Will has to go off and perform his My Little Ponies music to bring intergalactic peace, kind of like the Wild Stallions did in the Bill and Ted movies. So Will gets tired of waiting for Ted to wake up, so he basically flies off into space, and he'll come back later, but I don't want to give away too much.
Okay, yeah, don't I love that you're giving us little pitches of the story too, because I always ask for the pitches. I want the audience watching to be like, this is cool, I got to spend the money. So it's great that you're adding the pitches around. Now I already showed the cracked piece. This you sent me, right?
Yeah, Enchanter.
Okay, yes.
Enchanter was my foray into fantasy writing. I was I kind of liked C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, and so back in my Eclipse days, I pitched a book called Enchanter to them, and it was actually kind of a offshoot of a little short story that ran in the Overload fanzine that I did when I was in high school and college. So Enchanter, it's kind of set in Middle Earth, and it has elves and orcs and stuff in it. But Enchanter is where I got to team up with Mike Dragenberg, and Mike and we also kind of met through. I think he just sent me some samples through the mail, and he lived in Utah at the time, and I got these pages of artwork from this person, and I just said, wow, this guy's really good. And so I called him up and I talked to him, and I found out he was really young. I mean, he was only like 19 probably when he drew this book, and he's pretty fast too. But Mike after Enchanter, Neil Gaiman from Vertigo and Sandman fame, he saw Enchanter, and I think he thought that Mike would be a really good artist for it. So Enchanter kind of opened the publishing world's eyes to Mike. And then Sam Keith, who also did the hamsters with me for like 3 or 4 issues, he worked with me. So in a roundabout way, after Enchanter and the hamsters came out, the next project that Mike and Sam went to work on was to create Sandman, and that's become its own, huge property with a huge cult following. But I plan to re-release Enchanter. There were 4 issues that were done, 3 that were drawn by Mike, and then the 4th issue was drawn by another really good guy named Tatsuya Ishida. And some people may recognize him because he does a really popular webcomic called Sinfest. And Dark Horse, I think, did a compilation of his work, of his strip work, and he's an excellent guy. So Mike did 3 issues of Enchanter, and then Tatsuya did 1 issue, and I never got to finish what was supposed to be an 8-issue miniseries. So my plan is to release Enchanter down the line in full color and finish the story so it's completely illustrated. So that's going to be after these parodies get done.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I look forward to something like this. I'm a big fantasy fan. The second you mentioned Tolkien, I was already hooked, because there's something, not that I can show it in my studio, but there's something on every wall that is Tolkien based, whether it's a photo, a figure. There's
Oh,
something,
cool.
in here. So let's move on. Whoops, sorry. I don't remember what this. Oh, this is Enchanter pages. Can I show a few?
Yeah.
Okay, I won't go through all of them. Yes, this was beautiful. And you said this was done by Mike. Yeah,
Yeah,
this
Kurt Hathaway is our letterer again. Kurt was like he jumped from our parodies into like doing the serious stuff. And
yeah.
so this is Mike Dragenberg, probably 19 or 20 years old, and everybody saw his work and they said this guy is amazing. And he loved all the classic guys, like probably like Kaluta and Barry Smith and John J. Muth, I think, was somebody that he really liked. So he was quite an enigma. I mean, I looked at his work. I kind of saw a little bit of Bernie Wrightson in his work, and his layouts and composition are just, way ahead of his time for being such a young guy. But I think he's actually been doing covers for Tolkien, like paperbacks and stuff. So I tried to reach out to him to find him to see if he was available to maybe do some new material, and he doesn't have any social media presence or.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I try to look him up using like a person search online, and I've sent letters to both addresses that they gave me, and they came back returned. So he's not very he's just pretty private.
Yeah. I look at this, and this is one of the things I've went back to a bunch of times to what you sent me. Number one, I love his layouts, but number two, just the way he handles his blacks, and it's mostly solids. I mean,
I was gonna say, yeah, for a black and white book, he has a really good sense of mood and just balance, and it's really, I'm really proud of Enchanter. I really wanted it to get it out there more, and I think that once we re-release it and clean it up and get some really cool colors in it, it'll be cool.
Yeah, that looks amazing right there. I mean, I'm a big fantasy guy, so that is something I'm looking forward to.
We'll have the Wiz make a cameo appearance.
Oh, totally. He's a little more cartoony than what happens in there, but I'm okay with that. But yeah, wow. Now this is what's new going out with Dynamite, correct? Or
well, that's the fly in the ointment book. So the plan was to do a 40-page crossover between Cyberfrog and the hamsters.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The Cyberfrog is like Ethan Van Sciver's creation from the 90s, and now he's selling it online and just doing it himself, and it's very popular. I think his campaigns are over like $1 million for a single issue. So I reached out to Ethan, probably 3 or 4 years ago, and I just thought, wouldn't it be cool if the hamsters, who kind of came out in the 80s and 90s, and Cyberfrog did a collaboration? And it took him forever to get back to me, but then on social media he started posting these drawings that EJ Morges had done for him. And EJ is an artist that's working on some independent Cyberfrog books for Ethan. So EJ was supposed to be the artist to draw the hamsters Cyberfrog book, and he did about 8 pages, and then unfortunately Ethan and Dynamite Comics, who owns the hamsters rights, they kind of had a falling out. They were friends for quite a while, but there was just some infighting, unfortunately. And so after that happened, Ethan said, I don't really feel like I want to, be part of this project anymore. And so it just kind of, flatlined, unfortunately. But this is the splash page of what would have been the first page of the Hamster Cyberfrog crossover. And they're actually shooting a movie, and there's Kurt Russell and Sylvester Stallone alongside them.
Yeah, I was going to say that was definitely Kurt Russell. I couldn't tell who the other one was supposed to be, but I can see it now that you mentioned Stallone. I'm sorry.
So that worked. EJ did it, and he felt really bad when it got canceled. And he was kind enough to actually send me all the original artwork he did
Wow.
at absolutely no cost. So I actually have the original to that. It's, it's pencils, and it's just
Oh, that's
pretty,
all pencil? Wow.
yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Very nice. Let's see. This is your 3D.
3D
Uh,
hat. Yeah.
so if
Yeah.
you guys have 3D glasses, put them on now.
Yeah, that was an ad, and yeah, I know earlier you showed that picture with the 3D books, and probably my favorite hamsters artist, other than Parsonovich, was Ty Templeton, and he did this particular drawing. But he drew the first issue of the 3D book, and if I could have had him do the rest of the series, I would have been really happy. But he went on, he did his own thing, and Batman Adventures, and
I actually have a print. It's covered up now. I switch my prints out every now and then on my walls, and I have stuff behind it. But he did a DuckTales print that I own.
wow.
And it's really cool. And I don't know which one it's behind. Otherwise, I'd pull it out and show you. But it's
he's I loved his style. He did like an independent book called Stig's Inferno, I think, back in the 80s, which I really thought was fun. But I didn't know this, but maybe, I don't know if you knew this, but his dad was like the right-hand man to Billy Graham during the Billy Graham evangelical crusades. And then they had a falling out, and I think he went the other way and denounced God and kind of became an atheist. But Ty is his son. And so I didn't know that at the time. So that was just kind of a weird.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that either.
Factoid.
That's cool. Let's see. Oh, here's your parody on the Dark Knight here with Clint, your Raphael character.
Yeah, that was fun. That was done by Ken Meyer. Ken did the full insides. Actually, he drew the inside, and then Dragenberg inked that book, and the black and whites on that one I didn't send you any, but it's pretty impressive. Those two together worked really well.
Cool. I'm going to skip over the next one because it's just a group shot again. And this is when Dynamite brought them back.
Yeah, Dynamite brought them back, and Keith Champagne was the writer, and Tom Wen was the artist. Moose Bauman colored it. And they kind of asked me to just kind of be the consultant behind the scenes on it. Just they would run the script by me. They didn't ask me to write the reinvented hamsters. And so I liked their take on it. It ran for about 4 issues, and the production quality on it was really, really top end. It was the first time the hamsters had actually been in color. So to see them get digital treatment with glossy pages and all that was pretty cool.
Yeah. No, it's a nice art too. So let's see, what else did you send me? So this is the interiors that you sent me without the pictures. This is the X-Farce Reloaded cover, which is basically the old cover. Just, was it recolored or
redrawn by Bill in 2020?
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I don't know I don't think did I send you the original X-Farce cover? I think I did.
I believe I have it.
I don't know if you can put them side by side. If you can't, that's.
Let me see. Well, that's this one here.
Yeah, that's without any.
Where's that's the logo. What's this one here? That's an interior that you sent me. I know I thought I showed.
I think, yeah, there you go.
There you go.
That's the original Eclipse one that Bill did. Bill was like working at SeaWorld drawing people's characters for a living. And his friend Bob Hannon happened to know the editor at Eclipse. And so Bob was hired to actually draw X-Farce, but I think he kind of got in a time crunch. So Bill kind of stepped in. So Bill and Bob were the art team on the X-Farce book. And then, so Bill basically redrew his cover, but now it's 2020.
Yeah.
And, there's CNN on the 1992 version on cable TV chest plate. And now there's I think a Fox
Yeah, it says CNN and Fox, and I think if I look closely, it looks like ABC is underneath it, like it spins or something. You know?
Yeah, yeah. So we've got like the character that looks like Garfield is Garferel.
Yeah.
Um, the girl that's singing with the microphone, that's Shaboom Boom.
Mhm.
And then the girl on the right is Dominoes, which she. And then the guy right above her is Pee Wee Herman, which we called Fallen Star. and then and then the Indian guy, his name is Tonto, which is the Marvel character's Warpath.
Mhm.
And then the guy with the glasses, with the little aviator glasses, that's 8 Ball instead of Cannonball.
Yeah.
And then obviously cable TV is the guy in the middle, who's the main mutant hero in X Farce.
Yeah. And I love that you kept the giant shoulder pads, even though it changes a bit.
Yeah,
There's what was it when Liefeld stopped, and I remember it, and I believe it was in an X-Men issue. There was a machine that the X-Force went into to get new costumes, like an instant costume thing. And I don't know if it was the Warpath character or not, but it was funny because they come out, and I remember this line. I'm not saying it properly, but he goes, "It's nice to be able to move around without hitting my chin into those damn shoulder pads."
oh, that's hilarious. That's good.
Okay, let me close this one out. And let's go down to the next. So I believe this is an ex-con, right? Yeah.
This is this is
It says
yeah.
ex-con.
I think it's Unfunny X Cons meets the is it the Revengers maybe?
You got two here where it's just the text.
Yes, this is a story that I wrote because I wanted to basically have the reader use their imagination. So it's basically them fighting or meeting each other in Antarctica during a snowstorm. So we got the ex-cons plane accidentally lands on top of the Revengers Quinjet, and so they're trapped on top of each other, and they are just figuring out a way to get out of their predicament. And they're totally blind, snow blind during the whole episode.
That's hysterical. I love it. I love it. It's like, and it's a great way to save money and say, I don't need to pay an artist.
Yeah, Kurt did all the artwork, so hopefully people like it. I thought it was pretty funny.
I thought it was. Is this going to be part of the collection you're doing?
Yeah, that's a 3-page story in X Farce.
Yeah. I think this was a colored page.
Yeah, freshly colored just this weekend by Dell.
Yes.
So
he does really nice work. And I'm not saying that because he's a friend of mine. I'm saying he really does beautiful work.
Yeah, we've asked a lot of him because he's doing like the Liefeld genre, which he kind of showed an earlier page with, the colors. That's very, bright. And then we said, can you try to emulate more of the 60s style for the more Kirby-esque one? So this is to see the two together. I think he's done a phenomenal job, and he's doing this on top of his 9 to 5 and raising a kid, and he's a hard worker. I'm glad. And he worked on Stargate, which that's how you.
Yes, he told me about that. He was when we first, I think, started talking, and I mentioned Stargate. He was like, "Oh, I worked on that." So
yeah,
it's good. It's good stuff. But yeah, like I said, he's done. He's not this stuff, but he showed me other stuff, and I'm just amazed by the quality of work that he puts out constantly. I mean, it's always.
We actually have a story. He's illustrating it. He hasn't even seen the script yet.
Oh wow!
We're doing a story. He and I are doing a story in this, and it's what if other comic book companies had mutants. So I'm gonna have a 3-page story where the Watcher is going to be like Elmer Fudd out in space, and it just gets worse from there.
And that's what he's drawing.
Yes.
Oh, he'll be able to handle something like that.
He hasn't seen it yet, but he and I, when we've been talking, we said we both had an affinity for Harvey. So there's going to be a Harvey X-Men mashup in there, and Archie as well. Like
That's great.
instead of Jughead, it'll be like the Jughead or not.
That's great. I love it. I love it. You know, like I said when we were talking, I'm a Harvey fan. Me and Del talk about that sometimes too. It's just I think, you know, you pick the right artist. He can draw almost anything in any style. So it's fantastic.
Very underrated guy. Very
Yeah,
humble
I mean,
too.
he worked even on ElfQuest. He
That's
told
right.
me, and he did you know, and sometimes he'll do a drawing, and I remember he sent me a drawing of a girl. I'm like, oh, it looks very ElfQuest like, and he's like, sometimes it's hard to get out of that, but it's you know, it was a beautiful drawing. I loved it. So let's see, what else do we got here? I think we looked at this one. Oh, we looked at the colored version of that.
Yeah, that's Mark's line art, and he did another version that looks like it's aged. Like, so we might do like a pristine version, and then one that looks like it's actually like come out of like from the 60s with stress lines and little chunks kind of missing out of it.
Oh, I love this. I just love looking at this stuff here. Yeah, and that's the colored piece we just looked at.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before and after.
And this is an X-Force color page. You said that Dell did this one?
Yeah, Bill Mouse and Bob are the line artists, and then Dell is adding his color magic to the inside.
It's beautiful. I love how he uses the gradients to
really, yeah, that's kind of like in the 90s when everybody was learning how to color on Photoshop. They just kind of went nuts with that stuff.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I love it. I love it.
He puts in a lot of cool detail with like the shadowing and almost feels like a Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah, no, it does. And he added the effects of like the snow, I assume, and
yeah.
This is nice. I like the texture he got in the background of the last panel here. It's a nice texture. I can geek out just on the artwork. I'm sorry.
I know, it's cool. I can't wait to have a hard copy in my hand, and it's a lot of work. People, I don't know if they realize just the whole assembly line, and especially when you've got a bunch of different talents and you're trying to get everybody wrangled in. So, and then we've got the guys. I don't know if you follow Alterna Comics, but there's a really fun book called The Mighty Mascots about. It's basically what would happen if serial mascots became a super team, and they're going to be doing a story in X-Farce as well that covers like the more recent X-Men books with Professor X. I think he has an island now where all the mutants are living, and they can resurrect, and it's this really convoluted storyline that we're gonna poke fun at.
That's awesome with the mascot. So who works on that? That sounds very familiar.
Keith Gleeson is the creator and writer, and his artist is I think Anton Bandy is his colorist. Ian, I can't remember his name, but I think his first name is Ian, is the artist. But that's got a really cool toony feel to it. I sent away for like an Alterna Comics kind of a variety pack because they kind of look like what I would be doing if I was publishing comics today. They just kind of an eclectic amount of mix of both humor, sci-fi, fantasy. That's kind of what Entity and Parody Press were.
Yeah.
And so when I saw Alterna Comics, I immediately gravitated to what Pete Samiti was doing because I just felt like he's got the kind of sensibility that I would have as a publisher. And then they sent me like $30 worth of books that were all first issues. And I looked at them and I said, these are really fun. These are like what I would be reading. You know, they remind me of the stuff that I read when I was in like a collector in my youth.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. I know the books. I'm the more you were talking about it, it's popping in my head there. But yeah, no, that's great. When I know we're coming up to the end, because you gotta go soon. But when does Parody Press like officially come back with releasing books? Do you have a release date, or is it 2021 sometime? You know?
Yeah. what I'm doing right now is we're getting enough images together to do a couple things. We want to have a landing page on Indiegogo where people can sign up on a mailing list so they can get updates on how the book is coming along, and we'll probably run that for a couple months, but I'm not quite ready to launch that for X Farce. Close, pretty close. Hopefully, maybe this month.
Mhm.
And then one thing I did mention though is on X Farce, we have a really good artist named Rob Willis who we're commissioning to do a cover for us. And Rob is he's doing some work with Dan Fraga, and he's doing another comic book of his own called Shinobi Sasquatch. These are both crowdfunded books.
Okay.
But Rob is. Have you ever do you remember Dale Keown from Image? He did The Pit, and then he did Incredible Hulk for Marvel, and he had this tremendously detailed style. Rob kind of reminds me of Dale Keown, and when I saw his work that Dan Fraga was putting on a variant cover, I said, this guy's really good. And so I reached out to Rob, and he's so busy. He's like 3 months booked. So he's going to come out with his X-Farce cover. He said, I'll probably have it to me sometime in November. I've just been kind of waiting to get that because I want to get it and promote it, but I might just have our sign up for the campaign first, and then that cover is going to come. And so the thing that we want to do is have a little teaser commercial. Like a lot of people are doing videos of their books, and they're very cinematic with music and narration. So for X-Farce, we have a team that's going to be working on a trailer, and also for Beard Zerker, we want to have somebody parody Keanu Reeves' voice, once we get enough images and stuff. So that's the plan, is in this year to have at least the mail order signups, and then hopefully launch the campaign for X-Farce, I would say this year, and then release them first quarter 2021. And Beard Zerker as well, because Beard Zerker is kind of time sensitive, because the Keanu Reeves Berserker book is coming out, I think, like late summer, fall 2021. So it's going to be weird because we'll probably have the Beard Zerker parody come out before the actual book itself comes out. So we might have to put some kind of blurb on there that says, this is a parody of a book that hasn't actually come out yet. I don't know. We'll see.
That's great. Before we end and I let you go, number one, I want to say thank you for coming on. But is there anything else that you wanted to mention that we didn't talk about tonight?
Oh, no, I think you did a great job.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
We covered a lot. But I wish you the best with your book. I saw the Oodles of Doodles and the Wiz. You want to bring that back as a web comic, and that's exciting. What do you use to do you draw like the old-fashioned way, pen and ink, or do you also have a tablet? Or
I do both, but usually professionally I go digital because it's just easier to turn that stuff out. But the way I usually work, because I actually have an animation background, and I love paper. So I'll sketch out my ideas, and I'm very loose. I mean, let me see if I could pull something out real quick behind me. This is just my piles of stuff here. I don't even know if there's anything good in here to show. I got to go through this. Is like I go through it and then do I throw it out? But I don't know. I'll have to find stuff and show you. But I do stuff really, really quickly, and then I usually photograph with my phone, airdrop it to my computer, and then I'll ink it on the computer. If it's a comic, I like to draw on paper the panels individually, bring them on, and if I have to stretch them to fit, I don't care if they're pixelated or messed up, because I'm just going to go on to ink, and I make a mess in Photoshop of cutting and pasting together. I do like to draw in Clip Studio. I like the inking pens in Clip Studio better than I like in Photoshop. I'm much more comfortable.
That's a tablet-based program?
Yeah, I either use my Cintiq, which is right next to me, and I'm using as my dual monitor. Like here, you know what? I'll just show it. I don't mind showing to everybody. This isn't anything crazy, but let me just share here. I usually doodle throughout the day, and this is just a little character I just came up with earlier, and I just sketch. And I don't know, it's a little superhero. I do everything animals, and I like to do cartoon animals a lot, and because of, like I said, what I grew up on. And
So
um,
this is purely
this
a
is
digital sketch.
purely digital. So like I just go on it. I'll close that out just to show you. I'll go in and let me just lower my opacity. I hate when it's all black. You know, and I come in and I'll draw this guy again here. I get his cheek in here, his and I just kind of grab.
I've seen guys like Mike Miller do drawing shows, and there's a mix. Most of these guys are doing digital now, and that's something that we're learning now, getting back into it, because
Yeah,
back in the old days in the '90s when we were publishing, it was strictly we would get people's original artwork and have to scan it and then
yeah,
color. But now everybody seems to be drawing more digital. And my wife just convinced me. She said, it's really a pain in the butt to try to color these pages on my computer. So
mhm.
can you let me buy a tablet? So we are ordering
Yeah.
a
No, it's good. I mean, I personally worked. I learned on a tablet in college. I started college in '94, so I don't want to say tablets were just out, but they were getting a little more popular, I guess. And this is a time you couldn't even move the tablet. I had to learn to watch the screen and my hand be over here and just try to draw. And my teacher, I had a good teacher. He told me he would come in every day in class and unplug the mice. And he would say, you have to learn how to use the tablet.
wow.
And it wasn't a monitor tablet like the Cintiq was. It was a graphic tablet where you look at the screen and you draw on. And I didn't use a Cintiq. Oh, God, I want to say till like maybe 2013, 2014. And then I fell in love with it so much, and I would go to work and use a Cintiq, and I'd come home and I have my tablet. I'm like, I have to buy a Cintiq because it's a different thought process, and I was getting confused going, looking at the screen and drawing, and then going to work and then drawing right on the screen. It was eventually I just broke down and bought a Cintiq for my house. And
Is the Cintiq, is it Mac or PC?
it's either one. I mean, the one I have is either one. It just plugs in, you download the driver. But if you get, I haven't kept up with the Cintiqs, but if you get like anyone that has like built-in software or anything, that's usually PC based. But I also have an iPad Pro for the travel, and Clip Studio Paint's on there, and I have a Microsoft Surface because I travel around to schools and teach kids, and most schools are PC based, so it's just easier to use the Surface. And I got my Photoshop in there. I got Adobe Anim. I got basically the entire Adobe suite, and I got Clip Studio and a few other programs, so I can just plug it into, HDMI, VGA, whatever. I have the connectors, and
Cool.
I can demo it on the screen, so it's great. I don't the surface for me is a little too small. I like to draw my Cintiq's 20 is a 27-inch,
Wow.
so I like to have broad strokes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just how I am when I draw.
That's cool, man. Do you have videos on your channel
If you go on, actually, if you guys are watching on YouTube, if you go on my playlist, Get in Tune, not the Get in Tune Live, which this is on, but Get in Tune, I have a lot of how to draw videos I did for kids, especially when we went into quarantine, and a lot of kids weren't getting as much art, so I did a lot of twice a week. I was doing videos until I got sick, and then when I got better, I started them up again until the school year ended.
I'm glad you're feeling better, buddy.
Thank you.
You're bringing back your beloved characters as well. When do you plan on publishing the Wiz?
Well, the Wiz I just recently wrote in the last, well, as of last week, I wrote 38 strips in about 2.5 weeks about, and not all of them are winners. You know, they never all are, but I'd say there's at least 20 strips I'm ready to draw. My goal is to finish the children's book. There's a few little tweaks I want to make on it after showing it to a few people. And once I do that, then it's drawing the Wiz. But you know, I'm after I get those panels together, it's probably, you know, update my portfolio to send out to companies and see if I could, you know, get some freelance work and do the Wiz in the meantime and things
So
like.
will you do the Wiz on a website, or will it be like on Instagram only?
It's on Instagram and on Facebook, and I'll actually show you something cool that people might be into who do comic strips here. I'll show you, and I know we're going a little over, if you don't mind. Let me just open this file here. I believe this is it. So, this right here, if I share the screen, is a template I made for the Wiz. I have it in a 3-panel and a 4-panel layout, and then my artwork is down below. And what I did, if this closes up, there it goes. So if I close up the 4-panel, and I don't need the gray on. Let me that's for me coloring. Sorry. So like, here's a 3-panel, but I have it broken up with here empty panel. If I, you know, traditional Garfield style. So I always keep something set up. The gutter spaces themselves are separate images, separate layers, so I can have extended panels. So I play around 4 panels set up like that. So nice. Basically, all I do is, and I've done this for comic book pages too, I create the size I want the page to be, I create the border, and then I say, okay, 1 row is going to be this long, so let me make the gutter space a little longer. So say this is, I don't remember what this is, 5.5, let's say. So this might be, I don't know, 6 or 5 3/4, this space here. And I just fill it as a white bar with, well, actually I fill it with a black rectangle with white interior. And then I erase the, so I stroke it in the black and I fill it with white, and then I erase the outside edges. So it just covers up and goes right to the edge. So
is the Wiz, is it kind of inspired like the Wizard of Id, or is it completely different?
It's a little different. It was, like I said, I love fantasy, and when I did it originally, it was a piece I wanted to do to try to get myself back into writing comic strip style. And I said, I'm going to publish twice a week. And I was doing it. I started October 1st, 2018, and I went until June 2019. And I only stopped. It was mostly due to medical issues. And I needed to relieve some stress in my life, and the idea of a strip at the time, at the schedule, and because I fell behind on it, wasn't ahead. I'm like, this is too stressful. Let me remove this for a while, and when I feel like I'm ready to bring it back, I will. It was just more of a, humor strip, traditional humor strip. I don't talk about politics. I don't talk about anything like that. I just, wanted to tell some jokes and see what happened. And when I first did it, I really thought I was terrible at it, and it was only because I haven't done it in so long. And when I went back and reread the strip, I'm like, this has a lot of potential. So I can really rework this again. And so I did. I even thought about changing some of the designs. And when I played around with it, I'm like, I don't think I need to change designs. I just need to continue writing these characters. And
I definitely want to keep an eye out on it.
Thank you. Well, you guys can, for those watching, if you go on Instagram to @TheWizComic, and on Facebook, it's the same thing. You can read the original. I think there's 40 or 60, something like that. I did it twice a week from October to June. So whatever that would make. And you guys enjoyed, and I'm hoping to bring it back by before the new year if possible.
Are you on Instagram as yourself as well, or?
I'm on Instagram as Michael Gracia. I am on Instagram as at the Wiz Comic. Another one that I don't give out, but it's for the food I cook, and a couple of others. I've run some social media occasionally for some friends of mine who I don't like to use the term, but have celebrity status, and I've helped them develop social media presences and help them with their Facebook and their Instagram and how to handle stuff. So I don't control their sites anymore, but I'm still attached to them in case they need me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So
well, that was fun, Michael. I appreciate it.
I really do too. I had a lot of fun tonight. Let me stop sharing my screen. You guys don't care about what I'm doing. You care about Don tonight. So, and which, by the way, you guys, make sure you follow him both on Twitter and on Instagram. I follow him on Twitter, or I will tonight. And I will on Instagram as well. So you guys, thanks for tuning in. Don, I'm going to put you backstage for a few. And thank you again for coming on. All right. Bye. And let me just come back to this, guys. I just want to remind you, whoops. I don't know what happened there. Let me take off the brand or this right now. I don't know. Something's coming on. Harold says, thanks, guys. You're very welcome. And I just want to, guys, remind you about disappeared. About DiversityCon. Again, I won't be on it, but I'm going to be behind controlling all the tech. All right, guys. So if anything messes up, it is my fault, which fingers crossed it won't mess up. All right, guys. I will see you guys soon. Have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend. Make sure to tune in on October 16th and October 17th. DiversityCon is going to be awesome. All right. See you guys later. Bye.